Welcome. This is January 16, 2019. We are Bereans at the Gate. This is our first video blog of the year. Is that right?
It is.
So we had a long holiday. One of the great benefits of being a faculty member, of course, is getting that sort of long Christmas break. But it's good to be back. There's been an awful lot going on, much to talk about. As we were discussing before we started filming, we feel even less enlightened than normal this week, I think, because this whole government shutdown is sort of perplexing. There doesn't seem to be an easy end in sight for any of us. I mean, Jeff, let's start with you. I mean, what are your just general thoughts on the shutdown?
Well, a government shutdown just causes a lot of problems within the government processes. If you're a government agency, even if you are one of the essential workers that's allowed to go forward, you're not allowed to do a number of things you normally would be able to do. So some of the budgetary kind of implications are going to be more pronounced, I think, over time as things can't happen. They're not going to be able to get out new contracts and things like that. Generally, those are going to be limited. Things like that, I think, will be at least part of the implications.
Now, Bert, I know you've done a little bit of media work. I heard you on the radio recently talking about the costs of the shutdown.
That's right.
But what kind of costs are we really looking at? It's more than just simply 800,000 plus people not getting paid.
Well, the main cost, the main direct cost is that the furloughed employees are not working, but they will be remunerated when the shutdown ends. So in essence, we're paying for them to do nothing. So that is a real cost. Now, there's also some very definitive economic costs in particular communities that are close to, say, a small community close to a national park. Small businesses are hurt there. In Utah, there's a little town that's got a big IRS center there. And they're really hurting right now. So there are some tangible economic costs, and it adds up into the billions of dollars. It could get to a point to where, if we believe that it starts creating uncertainty, then it could be serious. But right now there are, I don't know, I've seen estimates everywhere, around $2 billion a week, something of that nature.
$2 billion a week, and of course President Trump is asking for $5 billion for the wall. This seems to be pretty counterproductive across the board. Is that right?
I think it's very counterproductive to play politics in this way. They should find some way to reach some kind of a compromise over border security. I don't think anyone wants the Great Wall of Mexico or the Great Wall of the U.S. down there, but we do want a secure border. And there probably are some issues that could be followed through that would help that. And I think the Democrats probably would have given that to Trump and had offered it, but it didn't work out that way.
Jeff, what do you think is driving this? I mean, because I don't think it's policy. Clearly, if it was policy, this would have been done 2 years ago. Republicans have been in the majority for a long time. So what's driving this shutdown and this wall?
It's hard for me not to believe that the Democrats, given their base and where their base is, that they cannot give Trump a victory for a major campaign promise that he made. And on this one, I'm really torn, like perhaps some of our viewers. On the one hand, I don't like the Great Wall either. I agree with you. We need border security. We need to have protection down there, but I don't like the idea of a big wall. Further, I really like to have a constitutional government. And the House is where spending originates. The president, I don't care that he promised that. He doesn't have the constitutional muster to decide where the spending is going to go. That's where the people weigh in. That being said, I mean, we've long since departed from that kind of issue, and most Americans want to have some sort of border security at some level, and the question is what? And given the vast preponderance of Democrats that have formally, and not in the very distant past, were supportive of some sort of wall, it seems like it's just because Mr. Trump has proposed this. I can't help but believe that's a large part of that, unfortunately.
Some of the rhetoric right now that we're hearing from Democrats is that the wall is immoral, that there's no moral justification for having something like a wall. You said you think the wall is arguable as a matter of policy. Is it immoral? I mean, Bert, what do you think? Is this a moral issue?
No. Well, I wouldn't say it's immoral. I mean, in the best of all possible worlds, we would be able to have a complete free flow of labor. That would be best. And I've argued before, if you look at the United States, there are demonstrative regional differences in our country, cultural differences, but we do not pay any attention to those when it comes to trade or to travel. And I wish that we could have that kind of a thing here, but that's unrealistic at this juncture in human development. So given those caveats, I see no problem with having border security. I don't want illegal drugs particularly easily coming over. I don't think the wall is going to have a lot to say with that. I
Right,
think we need
right.
more enhanced security in other ways to help with that problem. So to me, it's not immoral in a realistic, pragmatic kind of a way.
Yeah.
You know, if you could have your utopian world where we didn't have sin, then
Sure.
then we really would want to throw up a big wall.
Yeah. Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, it's hard for me to say under what basis would the morality be. I mean,
Right.
do you have a right to put a wall around your house if you don't? I think those are ugly, but I think you certainly have a right to do that. I think the wall, if we build it, will not be a big, beautiful wall. I think it will be a big, ugly wall. That being said, it may be a big, ugly, necessary wall. Certainly, Mr. Trump seems to think so.
Yeah.
So it's not immoral under what basis. And the Democratic Party has an interesting quandary in this because many of their members are in favor of some sort of
That's right.
situation. And once you say it's immoral, what happens if they do reach a compromise and there's some sort of wall?
Yeah.
Is a steel wall moral while a concrete wall is not? I'm tilting on that morality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the
don't see that.
verbiage that's used right now is going to be forgotten. We forget everything. Everything is moving so quickly now. We have hardly any institutional memory.
Yeah.
And I think the reality is, if I understand what the people who work the border, there are still some areas where a physical barrier, they want to be able to see through it, but a large physical barrier
Right.
could be beneficial.
Right.
And we need to do that if they need it to. We don't want poor people trying to sneak over,
Right.
and that's just not how we want things
It's not
to
good
work.
for anyone.
No, it's
Right.
not good for the people doing the sneaking or.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
What do you guys think how this fits into immigration as a policy? I mean, it seems to me the wall is really a pretty small part of what should be done to deal with immigration. So we're fixated though on the wall right now and not on all these other elements that we could be talking about. I mean, I don't want to be overly cynical, but to me this just feels like a pure partisan political issue, not really rooted in policy whatsoever, because no one's talking about the people who are here already who are illegal and not documented. No one's talking about the other immigration issues that we run into, legal immigration and otherwise. A wall's not going to address any of those things whatsoever. And so it's frustrating to me that they're not really dealing with the substantive issue per se. Does that sound reasonable?
It does, except
Yeah.
I suspect that all of that discussion is happening at some level behind the scenes because at some point in time, a week from now, 2 days from now, we're going to find out a deal's been made. At some point, somebody's going to blink or roll. And the question is, there are people behind the scenes right now trying to lay the foundation of what could be the trade-offs. And clearly, those kinds of things
You would think, right.
are going to be what they're willing to set on. Okay, if we give on this wall and give him some little wall, what can we extract out of it? And that's
Right.
got to be part of the discussion. In our modern media world, we just don't see that, I don't believe.
Yeah. Do you think Trump supporters would be okay with him saying, here's money for the wall, but however we have a path to citizenship for all these undocumented people?
Well, I mean, as usual, we don't want to treat Trump
Right.
supporters as monolithic.
No, right.
Some
Right.
will, some won't.
Right.
So forth.
Right. Bert, what do you think?
Well, I'm just, you're talking about a political compromise.
Sure.
And I would like to think that it is happening in the smoke-filled rooms in the back somewhere. But it just seems to me like I'm just not confident that that's happening. It looks like some politicians now play for the soundbite. They play to be on camera for a short period of time just to get their idea out. And I wish that we could work to compromise. That's what I really think we need. We need to do.
Well, of course, let me add to this because clearly what you're saying is true, but it's always been true. The only thing that's different is that the opportunities for them to be on the news is much more alive now. But behind the scenes, the people that actually write the legislation are those congressional professional staff. They're back behind the scenes working this. I guarantee you that's happening. Now the question is when will be the political moment where what's happening publicly can allow for what's happening behind the scenes at some level. We just don't know what those trade-offs would be and how serious it will be and whether the political moment that's on the outside, what you're referring to, will allow for something meaningful down below in terms of policy. Because most of the professional staffers, which I used to work with some of the professional staffers, they've got their agenda, their goals, and they're really trying to solve these problems. Most of them really want to do good, even at a lower level.
So in your experience, are the members themselves disconnected from that to some extent, or are they just not public about it?
It really depends on the member.
Right.
Some members are more active than others, but it is true that professional staff are writing the legislation. Now, a member will usually say, I
sure.
want this objective,
Yeah.
I want this particular thing, and so forth.
Right. Yeah.
I remember listening to a podcast when Jonah Goldberg's The Remnants, when Ben Sass was on there. And when Sass first went to Congress, he traveled around talking to representatives and liberal, conservative, across the gamut to find out what was most surprising. And what he found out was no one, the people you're talking about, the senators or people in the House Representative, want to be associated with anything at all that's not popular. Now, I know it's always been like that, but now it seems to me like they're just not functioning in order because of the way that they're seen. And that's what I think we have to somehow overcome. And to me, it's largely technologically based, and I do not know how we can get out of such a rapid news cycle, get out of the tweets, and get to a time when we can have more intelligent public discourse. Now, I don't have any doubt that the young men and women that we know that are at that level are doing a good job, trying to figure out how to bring this impasse to a fruition. But I'm just skeptical about about what will happen, because I can see no reason for the Democrats to blink here at all.
Yeah.
That I can't see, and Trump seems to be somewhat obstinate until he's not, so I mean, he seems to be. So I saw right before we came in here, Speaker Pelosi had suggested that he postpone the State of the Union address because they couldn't protect them, or whatever, whatever it was. So I hope that it is over before then. I know Professor Heyman and I were able to attend a conference this weekend in Florida. And as I was going through a TSA, which they performed, they patted me down, as they always seem to want to do.
You're very suspicious.
And it is, I am. I know that's the case. I tried to pull my shirt up. He said, no, leave that down. But, the gentleman that was helping me get the bag together looked down at his watch and he said, 6 a.m., another hour without pay. He kind of said it like that loud enough for everyone to hear. And then the people that were at the end were talking about how the server was going to crash when all the emails came through and they finally started working again. So, I just wish, again, that we could not have that, where these employees have that kind of mentality,
Right.
And then I just don't think that we should be playing around with them.
Yeah, really the only reason the system hasn't crashed altogether is because there are enough people who are willing to work without pay. Air traffic controllers, TSA employees, and others. If they decide to stop, then you're going to see compromise happen pretty fast, I think.
Yeah. So Mark, tell us, what's your political prediction on this? Who gets the blame for this? I mean, Mr. Trump said he owned it, and at what level does this? How's this played?
When you look at the polls right now, President Trump's not doing well in the polls generally. Right?
Sure.
His public approval rating is down. He seems to be taking the blame for this. When you look at popular opinion, it's his shutdown more than it is the Democrats. But when you look inside those polls, he's still looking at 80+ approval rating amongst Republicans, even in those polls themselves. Sure. So I don't think he thinks that he's suffering at all right now, which suggests to me he's not about to roll over on this thing until something drastic takes place. And I think he can at least see the wisdom of sticking to this, because this was really the one issue that he talked about more than anything else in 2016. He's going to fight it. I really don't think, though, he wants the policy, which I know sounds counterintuitive, but I think if he wanted the policy, he'd have done it already. He wants to show that he fights. He wants to show that he's sort of that untraditional, let's drain the swamp sort of guy. The longer this drags out, the more he can claim that. He can say, I've done everything that I could possibly do, and here's what happened. So I don't think he's going to suffer a lot directly from this. The Democrats, I think they're going to be the ones that blink probably more quickly. That's my guess.
The Wall Street Journal had an article over the weekend suggesting that the real key was Mitch McConnell, and that Mitch McConnell, his refusal to bring any bill to the Senate floor, unless the president will sign it, is going to shield those potential wavering Republicans.
Yep.
What do you think about that? Do you think that's real and Mitch McConnell is the key to this and he's playing a smart game?
Mitch McConnell only plays smart games, has been my experience. The guy's in his position for a reason. He's a great strategist. He's also great tactically, I think. He knows who those vulnerable Republicans are. He'll protect them as long as he can. He's a brilliant guy. So until he gets behind a compromise, it probably won't happen, because those few wavering moderate Republicans won't go along with it. So I think that's accurate, yeah. The leadership right now in Congress looks to be miserable, honestly. I don't know how anyone gets any of it done, Democrat, Republican. The margins are so slim. As you said, the members are so careful about their public images right now. You know, people like to throw grenades at people like Paul Ryan and others, but I don't know how you do it right now in the House, especially. It's a disaster. At least that's what I think. So anyway. All right, well, that does it for us this week. We appreciate you, as always, watching and listening. If you have questions, let us know. Send them to Matt, of course, and his marvelous mailbag. Also leave them in the comments of this video. Thank you.